right, fantastic. Thank you, Melissa. On behalf of the University of Arkansas, Olga, Teresa, Chad, and myself, we'd just like to thank you for attending our session today. Always better when together. And what we're doing is trying to cultivate those partnerships between 2-year and 4-year institutions. And so we know that there is a lot of ways that you can go about that. And what we want to do is kind of show you what the University of Arkansas is doing specifically to cultivate those relationships. We cultivate those relationships not only on our campus, but also with our system community colleges and really any community colleges that we come in contact that students are coming to the University of Arkansas to complete their education. And so before we get too much into it, we want to give you, of course, go through a little housekeeping rules and talk to you about some of the Zoom things. And so, of course, we please ask you to mute your mics. We know life happens and a lot of people are still working from home. So just so that everybody can benefit and hear all the information, we just ask for you to mute your mics. Feel free to post questions in the chat and my colleagues will be answering some of those questions as we go through our presentation. And then we'll have a time at the end to answer a lot of the questions as well. And we'll probably go through some of the more popular questions and then answer those so that everybody can see them on camera. Session is being recorded, and so you can actually go back and watch it later. If you miss a part or you wanted to go back and check, see if you heard something right, we definitely want to make sure we get you that correct information. We do have closed captioning available for you. If it's on and it's annoying, you can turn it off, or if you need it, it's available for you as well. And then as always, we very much appreciate you filling out that evaluation. It helps us out and learn how we can improve and better serve y'all. And so before I pass it over to Teresa, I just want to say that we're going to go through a little bit of history of the University of Arkansas and then show you how we are, how we're structured and different things like that. And then we'll go into some other things as well. So Teresa, I pass it to you.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Hello, everyone. As Chris mentioned, my name is Teresa Simpson, and I am a transfer admissions counselor here at the University of Arkansas. I'm super thrilled to have you all joining us for this session, and I hope you can gather a lot of beneficial information to take back with you to your institutions. So I want to start off by giving you all a little bit of background on the University of Arkansas. The U of A is actually a land grant flagship university established all the way back in 1871. It's pretty exciting for us because this year is actually going to be our sesquicentennial. And yes, that is 150 years. So just this past fall, we had nearly a record-breaking 27,562 students enrolled with us. Now, while our enrollment rates over time have climbed over 27,000 students, we've worked diligently to remain student focused and have actually narrowed our student to faculty ratio down to 18:1. So if you've had the chance to visit Northwest Arkansas, you might agree with the fact that the University of Arkansas is actually located in one of the top 10 places to live in America. We were just discussing this, and I didn't get a chance to mention, but I moved here from Pennsylvania, and I gotta say this area is a pretty fantastic place, not only to live, but to visit and explore as well. So on campus, we actually have over 175,000 graduate names etched on our senior walk, and it weaves all throughout campus. So when you come to visit campus, be sure to look under your feet to see the thousands of students that have paved the way for our university. It is a truly incredible sight to see and definitely something that all of our students strive to be a part of. So now that you know a little bit about the U of A, I'd love to share more with you about us, your presenters, and our office, Transfer Central. So before Transfer Central existed, new freshman admission counselors would work with transfer students as they came, but they saw that there was a need for an actual liaison to help with specific transfer student needs. So that is where our first and only transfer admissions counselor came in, and that was in 2009. And there, Transfer Central was born. So since 2009, we have expanded to 4 Transfer Central representatives, and we added myself as our most recent addition in May of 2020. So Chris did introduce everyone, but I'd like to give you a brief overview of how our office functions. So first, we have our fearless leader, Chad Cox, who supervises us 3 transfer admission counselors. Additionally, Chad works with some of our special population students, such as our merit scholars and our transition academic program participants, which Chad will talk a little bit more about later. And then we have our admissions counselors. There's Olga Murcia, and she is the recruiter and admission counselor for all of the states that you see highlighted in tan, as well as the majority of our schools that are located in state, which you can see highlighted in red. And then we have Christopher Robinson, who is a senior admissions counselor, and he has a focus on diversity outreach. Chris's recruitment territory is highlighted in blue. And then finally, there is myself. I am the admissions counselor for Northwest Arkansas Community College, which is a school that represents a large portion of our transfer student population here at the U of A. So as you can see, with 4 people, we are able to cover the entire country. So students always have one specific person that they can reach out to and work with. Now that you all have a little bit of background on both the university and our Transfer Central team, I want to share with you 2 of our transfer tools that have been created through some internal partnerships, and they've been super helpful to our transfer students. So first, we have our course equivalency guide. This is an extremely beneficial tool to students who are interested in seeing how their credits will transfer into the U of A from their current institution or their previous institutions they may have attended. We actually have over 400,000 courses from over 3,900 institutions evaluated for credit by our registrar's office, and that's all listed on our course equivalency guide. I do want to mention this is an ever-evolving tool as new credits are evaluated for transfer daily. This partnership in creating and sharing and utilizing the course equivalency guide has helped our transfer students with their transition immensely. So our academic colleges also saw a need for students to determine transfer credits for specific majors, and they came up with a collaboration of the course equivalency guide and degree requirements, which created our transfer planning guide. It's another very readily used tool by our transfer students. The transfer planning guide is great for students to look into their degree program's course requirements or to research how courses are going to transfer into their desired U of A major. This tool is super useful in planning a smooth transition into their desired degree program. So the tools that I described are great at setting students up for a seamless transition, but here at the U of A, we also want to set students up for success at funding their education. So in the fall of 2020, we actually awarded $622,000 scholarship dollars to our transfer students. At the U of A, we offer a variety of traditional scholarships for both in-state and out-of-state transfer students specifically. Here you can see a list of scholarships that we offer, and these awards can range from anywhere from $2,000 annually all the way up to $10,000 annually. There is actually a newer scholarship that Chris is going to discuss here shortly, which is another great funding opportunity for our transfer students, and it's actually not included in our $622,000 total. But as a national destination, we do have an award specifically for our out-of-state transfer students called the New Arkansan Non-Resident Tuition Award. This award gives a percentage between 50 and 90% off to the out-of-state portion of tuition to students who meet specific GPA requirements. So for any institutions that might be with us from bordering states, as well as Illinois and Georgia, your students can be eligible for up to 80 or 90% discount on the out-of-state portion of their tuition. You can see this notated as beige states on our map. And then any other institutions that are with us today from any other state, notated in yellow on the map, your students may be eligible for 50 or 80% off their out-of-state portion of tuition. In fall of 2020, we actually awarded over $400,000 to transfer students eligible for the New Arkansan Non-Resident Tuition Award. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Olga Murcia so she can share some more information about our transfer connections with you.
Thank you, Teresa. Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. Again, my name is Olga, and I'm going to talk to you about Transfer Connections, which is an event hosted by Transfer Central in collaboration with our campus partners from the University of Arkansas. And this event, we invite guests or transfer champions specifically from community colleges to come to the University of Arkansas to learn about the University of Arkansas. Now, I know I've seen here in the participant list that there are a few transfer champions that have actually joined us for Transfer Connections. So shout out to transfer champions that have joined us on campus. Thank you for attending our event today, our session. So a little bit more about Transfer Connections for those of you that are not familiar. like I said, it is an event that is hosted by us. It's a 2-day event for Transfer Champions. It's free to our Transfer Champions. We provide lodging and meals for our Transfer Champions. And what this event really does to assist us is we are able to create and maintain relationships out of Transfer Connections. We're able to provide opportunities for networking between community college professionals and University of Arkansas staff. We're also able to really increase exposure of our institution and increase visibility. So community college professionals that attend our event include advisors, TRIO coordinators, transfer student coordinators. We have held this event in April typically, as that's usually the best time for our Transfer Champions to attend the University of Arkansas. Usually April is a little less busier that we've noticed, that we've surveyed, and then also a little less busier for us, as well as it's a little bit after recruitment. But we've held this event in 2016 and 2018 and in 2019. This past year in 2020, due to the pandemic, we weren't able to hold the event on campus. So we did have a virtual alternative, and that was a condensed version, 2 hours long. We also provided some information, a booklet with all the need to know information for our Transfer Champions. And campus partners that are involved in this event include enrollment services, so that encompasses admissions, scholarship, financial aid, registrar, and we also have advisors from the 6 different academic colleges, as well as resource departments that represent. And they really talk about that student success aspect. Now we're going to talk about schedule of events. So what type of sessions we actually have for Transfer Connections. So we do have the overview of admissions, the transfer credit evaluation process that our registrar department discusses. We also have scholarships and financial aid discuss any types of details that are really need to know for our Transfer Champions. We also have the academic colleges talk about the overview of majors and most of those complex questions of what classes students really need to make sure to take prior to the transfer process. We also every year try to change it up a little bit with the optional tours. We provide department tours, so those can kind of change on a year basis. We embed within the program some campus tours. So in case our Transfer Champions would not like to do an actual campus tour, we try to embed that within the program as well. So you're getting a snapshot of the campus, and we utilize different spaces so they know what it feels like to be a U of A student, so they can relate that back to their transfer students. This past the 2019 year that we had the Transfer Connections event last, we did incorporate a transfer student panel that was really successful and popular, as the Transfer Champions were able to hear from previous transfer students on how they're doing at the University of Arkansas campus. So overall, this event, the intention of it is really to relationship build. And we're also able to do that by showcasing Fayetteville and having some bonding time over dinner. Of course, a lot of great conversation over food, great food especially. So Fayetteville is a really neat little place, like Teresa was talking about, fifth best place to live according to U.S. News and World Report. But Fayetteville, we have a street called Dixon Street, and so that goes through the heart of campus into the main part of Fayetteville. And they're able to get really a snapshot of what this little town has to offer, and why people love this little town. So I really enjoy creating this event and being able to host this event due to the relationship building, which is part of the event outcomes between University of Arkansas staff and community college professionals. And then we also have opportunity for discussions about how to improve the overall transfer process for prospective students. So there's a lot of information that is discussed as far as maybe potential advising pathways and things like that. So when we're coordinating this event, things that we have considered and kind of changed, have evolved throughout the years. Budget, of course, is huge, as that really dictates what we can have, maybe what type of the amount of people that we're able to host, also the length of time. We utilize pre-event surveys to be able to get an idea of, like I said earlier, what's the best time for our Transfer Champions to come to campus. We also provide print. So that is huge for our Transfer Champions. So we've gotten feedback that that's great. They make copies for their students. They're able to provide that detailed information for their students. students need to know in order to transfer to the University of Arkansas. So print is huge, and communication, being able to communicate exactly what is to be expected out of this program. So all those pre-event, post-event surveys are crucial, and the bonding time is certainly unique. We also want to share some transfer connections data. So as you can see here in 2016, we had about 15 attend, in 2018, 9. And then as you can see, there's certainly an increase from the very first time we had it to the most recent transfer connections event in 2019, where we had 32. So we did collect some data from 2015 to 2019 for applications, admits, and enrolls of schools that did and did not attend transfer connections. As you can see here, applications did not quite increase, admits and enrolls, there's a slight increase. So we think that there's certainly a correlation to the admits and enrolls to transfer connections event, as we're certainly discussing the admission requirements and expectations for transfer students. And we also wanted to share some feedback from our transfer partners. This feedback from transfer partners that have attended all the 3 years of transfer connections that we've held. As you can see here, a lot of positive feedback. I think my favorite comment is a 5-star everything. This really encompasses the experience that we're able to provide of transfer connections, really that relationship building that occurs and networking that is really unique. All of that are takeaways for us for transfer connections. And another thing that I want to comment on the feedback is some of the conversations don't necessarily have to do with the process of our transfer process, but also there's some questions that get answered between community college professionals as to maybe some questions that are that certain community college professionals get at their school and another school maybe doesn't get those questions. So there's a lot of interchange or exchange of information as well, and questions that maybe certain schools don't get and others do. So with that said, that is our transfer connections in a nutshell, and I will pass it on to Chris.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Olga. And so what I'm going to talk about is our Arkansas Transfer Achievement Scholarship. So the University of Arkansas, they decided not a long time ago, but a couple of years back, that they really wanted to see how can we get more transfer students to the University of Arkansas. And so after a couple of years of doing research and engaging in different studies, they came up with this program, the Arkansas Transfer Achievement Scholarship. And so you might ask yourself, what is it? And so we know one of the big barriers when it comes to going to any institution is going to be money. And so this program kind of helps take away some of those worries when it comes to transferring to the University of Arkansas. And so the Arkansas Transfer Achievement Scholarship, or you may hear me refer to it as ATAS, it is an annual award that matches the base tuition from University of Arkansas System Community College. And so we really wanted to support our community college system within the state of Arkansas, the University of Arkansas system. And so this is one of the ways that we found that we could do that. And so the system community colleges are spread all throughout the state. And so students are able to take advantage of this. And as opposed to in the past where they may have been a little bit nervous as far as, well, I want to go to the University of Arkansas, but money might be a barrier. This kind of helps alleviate some of those issues. And so kind of how it works, of course, you have to be an Arkansas resident. It'd be nice if we could spread it around to everybody, but because we are the land grant and flagship of the state of Arkansas, we have to make sure we do our due diligence and serve our Arkansans as well. And so you do have to be Arkansas resident, and you do have to achieve an associate from a University of Arkansas system to your school. And so the good thing about this, and the one thing I love about this, is that we're not taking away from the community colleges at all. We're not telling them that, hey, come up here as soon as you possibly can. We want you to go to the community college. We want you to achieve, associates of arts or associates of science at those community colleges, and then have those community colleges prepare you to come to the University of Arkansas to complete your bachelor's degree. And so we encourage students that, once you go to the community college, achieve your associate's degree, and then you will come to the University of Arkansas the semester preceding your graduation from that community college. And so, like I said, tuition, as far as that goes, it is going to be the same base tuition rate at that community college. And so whatever that is, I do have a little bit of a slide that I'll show a little bit later that shows exactly what that looks like. So you don't have to kind of imagine it in your head. But then we're going to talk about when it comes to enrollment and renewal requirements. Students have 10 semesters to complete their bachelor's degrees. And so we give students an ample amount of time to be able to complete that degree because we know life happens. Sometimes you can go full-time, sometimes you have to go part-time. Some degrees that we have, regardless of when you transfer in, it's going to take 5 years regardless. And so we want to make sure that we can cover all those bases as much as possible. And so by giving students at least 10 continuous semesters, that usually has an ample amount of time to be able to complete their educational goal, which is completing a bachelor's here at the University of Arkansas. As I said earlier, life does happen. And so we do have students are able to defer based on our deferral policies. And so they just have to meet that, of course, military service and different things like that. Students are able to defer according to our policies. And one of the other things which may sound a little iffy on the front end, but I promise you it's a good thing. Students aren't eligible for U of A, other University of Arkansas admissions scholarships. So they are eligible for University of Arkansas departmental and college scholarships, just not any other ones from the Office of Admissions. And so what that really does is that frees up scholarship money that we can give to other students as well, both in-state and out-of-state. And so by not doing that, we are able to spread the love around, so to speak, and encompass and give more students opportunity to achieve scholarship money here at the University of Arkansas. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit how the money works, because I know a lot of people are like, show me the money. Now I'm showing you the dollars. And so say, for instance, you come to the University of Arkansas without this award and you want to study in the arts and sciences. So on our little graph there, it's ARSC. That's our arts and sciences colleges. It'll be $252 per credit hour. There is no tuition differential. And so one of our community colleges, Hope Texarkana, their rate is at $68 per credit hour. And so if you graduate with your associates, upon coming to the University of Arkansas, you will be paying the $68 base tuition rate instead of the $252 that you would pay without this award. So as you can see, it eliminates a lot of financial burden on these students. Say, for instance, if we decide to do architecture, there is a little bit of a differential between that. And so the differential is going to be about $25 per credit hour. And so what we'll do, we'll take that base rate of 68, we'll add on that differential to that. And so the new price will be $93. And so as you can see, without this award, it'll be $277. With this award, it'll be $93. And so this really saves a lot of money for students and helps them be able to afford the University of Arkansas. And then in addition to that, we do have different state funding opportunities that students in Arkansas can take advantage of as well. And so it doesn't exclude them from those opportunities, just from the Office of Admissions. And so as you can see, it helps drive down the cost, and students are saving over $11,000 over 60 hours when they come to the University of Arkansas. And so some of the outcomes that we have from this is that increased collaboration with our sending institutions. Because we have this award at our disposal now, we are able to have that increased collaboration with our system community colleges to be able to create these 2 and 4s. We know people call them a lot of different things, but here we call them 2 and 4s. And so we can create those pathways for students to take out the guesswork into making sure students aren't taking classes that they don't necessarily need, but they still are able to achieve those educational goals in which they hope to achieve here at the University of Arkansas. We have been able to increase collaboration between not only with our system schools or system community colleges, but also on our campus with our different advisors on campus, because they want to provide pathways for students coming into business, coming into engineering, coming into maybe some of the agri majors as well. And so we are able to work with them, collaborate with them, and kind of take away some of that guesswork and make that pathway as seamless as possible. And we are able to have an increased visibility on their campus, and they are having increased visibility on our campus. And so, like I said, we have a lot of opportunities here, and we're always exploring ways and opportunities that we can better serve those system community colleges and their students. And so I'm gonna show you a little graph, what it looks like before we had this award with our system schools and afterwards. And so the ATAS, or Arkansas Transfer Achievement Scholarship, did come about in about May of 2019. And so before then, our numbers were pretty steady year in and year out. But as you can see, after that, our numbers are pretty much exploded for some of those system schools. And the students that we're getting from these system schools, some of these schools we weren't getting any students from in the past. And now, because we have this award, students are able to make a lot more decisions, a lot more wiser decisions about their educational future that are going to be in their best interest. And so you look on this and you see in some cases, we're doubling some of the students that we're getting at some of these system schools. And whereas in the past, we weren't getting that many students as all. And so it's not just, applications, but it's applications, it's admits, it's enrolled, it's all across the board. And so this has been a fantastic game-changing program for us. And so next up, I am going to pass it on to my colleague, Chad, and he's going to talk about some of the other agreements that we have here at the University of Arkansas.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, as Chris mentioned, this has led to greater motivation across campus to strengthen these academic partnerships as well. We are careful to remind students that the ATAS is a financial pathway and not an academic one. That's been one source of confusion for students, especially when they find out it's still going to take 5 years after transfer for an architecture degree due to the required studio rotation. That's not to say that we don't have traditional academic programs, because we do, and you can see some of those here. Most of our academic colleges prefer the term advising guides instead of 2+2, as they really provide course guidelines instead of an actual timeline, which some students take literally. STEM Prep allows community college students to take engineering foundation coursework that's not offered at their school. Students take the course through distance learning at the U of A, but only pay their school's tuition rate. We also have designated transfer pathways that are specific from one transferring institution and or degree program. We'll take a specific look at these examples in a moment. Lastly, we have the Transitions Academic Program, TAP, which also allows students to have a blended experience in their first year that benefits them academically and financially. The first year is mostly typical, but a few activities such as Greek life are restricted, and the majority of tuition is at the lower community college rate. Because of their non-degree seeking status in the transition year, they are eligible for scholarships upon completion that may have been out of reach as a new freshman at our institution. Here's an example of an advising guide for engineering. You can see the 9 different disciplines we offer listed across the top. Down the left, you see course options from the 2-year school that meet requirements in that area. This mostly covers university and engineering core, which includes specific lower level math and science coursework. It's not a true 2+2, so to speak, but it's a great roadmap that provides some flexibility for the student. It's also easier to update a single document per school instead of one for each major per school. Who doesn't love an 89% reduction in paperwork? You can also see in the second column courses offered at this particular school via the STEM Prep here at the U of A. In this example, a student can save 23 hours of tuition cost, and more importantly, avoid a 3-semester delay in the transfer process due to course sequencing by taking advantage of this program. If they waited to take these classes after transferring, they would have to lay in wait to meet the prereq requirements for additional engineering classes. I did have to cut off the bottom of this image so it would fit and still be somewhat readable. So visit stemprep.uark.edu if you want to see this fully or some other examples. Here you can see one of the 2+2 pathways that have resulted directly from the ATAS. It's part of the Walton College of Business's Turn 2 into 4 program. Notice it also lists the additional requirements upon transfer that may not have been satisfied as part of the Associate of Science curriculum, and gives options for completion before or after transfer. That's in the lower right-hand corner. What I love about this is that it's blending that financial and academic pathway, or partnership, if you will, to ensure more certainty for the student, and it lays out clear expectations. If you think of it from a 3-legged stool concept, we are providing a better foundation for these students. I feel if we can find more partnerships that remove the mystery out of the transfer process, ones that work in tandem to address the multiple needs and concerns of students in terms of experience, cost, pathways, then we can help students start with the end in mind. It's okay if those partnerships are not traditional or broad, all-encompassing ones that change the status quo right away. They just need to align with a common goal of helping students navigate the transfer process successfully. By doing this, policies support each other and act as catalysts for more and bigger change. As shown, we partner with the registrar's office to create useful guides with students prior to the application process. We've partnered with academic programs on campus to help communicate the nuances of transferring within particular programs. We partnered with transfer champions at two-year schools to highlight campus life and create an experience that can be shared from trusted advisor to student. The financial partnership promotes stability and student progression along with overall health of the U of A system. And it's created better academic partnerships in the traditional sense. We are heading into the Q&A time in just a moment, but I wanted you to have our contact information should we not get a chance to answer all of your questions, or if we simply need a longer conversation. Please feel free to follow up with us about anything covered today, especially if you want to explore a partnership with the University of Arkansas, how to help your students transfer, transition, and succeed. After all, we are always better when we're together. With that, thank you for joining us today, and we'll open it up for questions.
Chad, if you want to use, there's a question in the chat towards the end that I think could be sort of a bigger discussion question about the curriculum conversations you're having with the community colleges to, help students be successful and be prepared academically. So do you want to sort of start with that sort of more open-ended question?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's really where the challenge has been. So we are primarily a recruitment office. So when it comes to academic areas like that, we really have to watch our boundaries and our authority. But because the scholarship has really created such an interest, student academic areas are also starting to see the deficiency in students in making that bridge. So what has resulted is a lot of course alignments. And so we are actually getting to be the go-between now between the two-year school and the academic department here to go ahead and formulate these processes. So that's been really beneficial, but we really just kind of make the connection and then let them handle it and then make sure they tell us we can put it on the website for students to find later.
All right. Does anybody else have any good questions for us?
Mr. Robinson, I actually do. I just kind of want to give you some commendations. I actually graduated from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, so I'm very familiar with the University of Arkansas campus. That's a beautiful campus for anybody that has never been up there. I did have a question because we just came out of a great session about diversity. And, I'm just really curious, especially for your STEM programs, how are you able to encourage students of color to want to get into those programs? Most of us colleges, even out here on the West Coast, I'm actually in Las Vegas. It's really hard to get our students to get into those programs. So, I just want to know if there's some innovative ways, that you're doing outreach to try to get students of color to come into those programs.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think one of the big things that we've learned is that being seen and being available and being not only just seen from we're in Fayetteville, there where they're at place, but also just being in their communities, really kind of overcoming some of those barriers and talking to them and trying to figure out, what's that fear of coming to the University of Arkansas or achieving, going into the STEM program and stuff like that, and getting them connected with some of our people on campus. Because one thing that I found is just information is powerful. And so once students have that information, it takes away a lot of that fear. And so for me, I can't necessarily talk too much about the advising side of things, but from a recruiting standpoint, I can be available to students to be able and connect them with that, give them as much information as possible to help prepare them and make the best decision for them.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. I actually will be reaching out to you. My youngest son is a football player who wants to play for the Razorbacks. So I definitely will be reaching out. We definitely will be, I will definitely be making a contact with you so that I can get out there and do some visits.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you. Let me know when you get here.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Robinson. Thank you all on the panel.
Yeah, thank you. And Denise had a question about international students. For scholarships, most of our scholarships that we have are available for international students as well. So it's in the same pool, whether that's for transfer or for new freshmen. Then the international students also have a version of the non-resident tuition award, but we do not process any international applications. That is all through our international admissions office.
When you showed your pathway, you just showed basically what you showed was what the student takes at the community college and where they get credit for. Where's what they take once they transfer? Do you have that as part of what you're doing?
It is, so we leave that with the academic advisors at that point. We really want that relationship to be established here on campus. So, I mean, it's available. It's out in the course description. It's out on our the website with all the advising guides and things like that. It's there, but it's from the standpoint from the academic college and degree requirements at that point. So it's not like we're going to we don't necessarily map out a 4-year degree program starting with the 2-year school. We start out what they need to get here and then let the advisor take over the last 2 years or so. Does that make sense, Becky?
Well, I understand why. I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure why that's great for the student, but that's okay. I was just curious why you didn't show what they took once they transferred. So
it really gets a little more specific for each degree plan. Typically,
I know I have 250 of them with 30 different schools. So I understand when you say, isn't it easier just to change one document rather than 250 if there's a change to English? Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's see. And Lynn, you had a question about the scholarship for the ATAS, is that right? Okay, so your students just have to meet admission criteria, which for a transfer student, that's a 2.0 cumulative college GPA for transfer. So they have to be in good academic standing at their institution that they are coming from. So that's the eligibility for that scholarship, in addition to being a resident and completing the Associate of Arts or Associate of Science. It is important to note the applied science degree does not apply for that. However, the Associate of Arts in Teaching would. We've had a few community colleges that offer an Associate of General Studies as opposed to an Associate of Arts in General Studies. And that has really forced some curriculum alignment on their behalf as well, because those students would not be eligible for the scholarship as a transfer. And then it's just a 2.0 in good standing to maintain the scholarship once they're here and continuously enrolled.
What about maintaining the scholarship? Is there a GPA requirement for maintaining it?
Remaining in good academic standing, typically 2.0.
Just a 2.0. And I also had another question on that event that you hold. Approximately how many individuals do you invite to your campus, and from how many community colleges?
Olga, you want to take that one?
Yes. So Transfer Connections, we typically send out invites to around, I would say probably around 50 different academic colleges. And you also asked about how many have attended. Is that correct, Lynn? Yeah. So the most recent one that we had on campus, we had 32, and there was about 9 different schools represented. So we had multiple transfer champions from the same schools, but some of these schools had, were in a district, so they came from different campuses.
Yeah, and do you as well involve your faculty in this event?
So we typically work with advisors for the academic college presentation. Advisors, so they can ask the advising questions, or they can answer the advising questions is what I meant. Faculty, not usually, but if there isn't maybe representation in advising, then I believe they will ask somebody from faculty, but it's usually just advisors that are representing academic colleges.
Do you all do any faculty to faculty collaborations between the community colleges and your school?
I know the academic colleges also have a set of recruiters, so they sometimes will have those interactions. We personally do not create any events that are specifically faculty to faculty, but that can surely be an opportunity for the future.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we got about 4 more minutes. So any other
One
questions?
more question about that scholarship. Approximately how many scholarships are you handing out with that?
So it has been increasing. The actual hard part is tracking the student because we've been implementing new things in our CRM to understand if the student is transferring, that they're transferring from one of the 7 colleges that are eligible, and that they actually plan to complete an associate's degree by the time they enroll. So we can't actually award the scholarship until we have the final transcript with the degree posted in our office and added. So there's usually a gap. It's really tough for the spring term because they're wrapping up in December and we're like, where's my bill? My bill is not added. We don't have a transcript yet. As soon as it's here, we promise. And our financial aid office and treasurer's office has been fantastic about letting those come in as late as March and then retroactively applying it. We're hoping to get away from that as we track them better through the process, but it's been 20 to 30 each semester. We literally announced it in May of 19 and our first student started in fall of 19. So just communicating early to let students know that this is the path they need to go with, and it allows them to choose the appropriate degree program at the community college. So really a lot of the outreach, we've gone to orientations at the 2-year school to talk about this program, so they are aware of it from that point. We have flyers and posters that we've distributed to them that they can share as well. So lots of just education on the front part. They works for the STEM prep programs as well.
And it hasn't affected your FTE?
It has not at this point. It's been an addition, so it's been nice.
There's no, you didn't mention any cap, so this is eligible to any student as long as they meet the criteria. So
yeah,
this could be ginormous.
It could be, yes.
That's what we're hoping.
And that's
Yeah,
my
we
concern.
were aware
Like,
of that.
it would never work for us. I mean, I'm a small liberal arts college on Long Island. I could not compete with the community college's tuition rate because that would affect my FTE significantly. So I'm just like, it's a great concept for state schools for sure.
And most of the community colleges in the system are located in areas where we typically don't get a lot of new freshmen. So it's not even taken away from that general cohort.
No.
Anything, it's adding to the pipeline eventually down the road.
It's also it's increasing their graduation rate because
Yes.
you acquire a degree. So it's actually a good partnership with them because it's actually helping their bottom line significantly.
Yeah, it's great. And the Arkansas, the legislature actually adjusted recently to do performance-based funding. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to help the system out in general.
The joys of state college. Thank you. Very interesting. A lot of good
There's one
information.
last quick question in the chat, and then I think we're being told to wrap up. Someone else, Julie asked, how long did it take to build a transfer planning guide course equivalency tool?
I'm going to throw a lot of credit to our registrar's office. They really spearheaded a lot of that, but it's been an ongoing work in progress for about 2.5 years now. It's grown 300 colleges and 50,000, or not 50, 30,000 courses in the last 18 months. So it's just as we get more students from different colleges, more things get added to it.